Hi, my name is Attorney Walter Wolf, III, and what we're going to be addressing now is, should a business-type person actually become the Social Security Commissioner going forward? And what we're going to be talking about is basically, whether or not the government will hire somebody from inside, who that inside person is, stuff like that. But this video, we're going to be doing two videos, is going to focus solely on Andrew Saul and who he was, and the type of business person that resulted and the actions that resulted from that. Then we're going to be talking about the other person that's going to be taking over as the acting, not the actual, it's acting at the moment. So we'll go through that. That's the Kilolo Kijikazi. I don't know how to pronounce that person's name, but it looks pretty darn beautiful as a name. But anyway, we'll keep rolling through this. So who was Andrew Saul? Andrew Marshall Saul, and this is straight from Wikipedia. I'm going to give you a quick read through and then give you my kind of take on this. Andrew Marshall Saul, born November 6, 1946, so he's older. He's retirement age, though it's past retirement age, is an American businessman, government official, and a political candidate who served as Commissioner of the Social Security Administration from the 2019 to 2021 era. After refusing to offer his request resignation, Saul was fired from the position by President Joseph Biden on July 9, 2021. Saul claims his discharge is illegal, despite recent Supreme Court precedent to the contrary. Saul has previously served as the chair of the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board and vice chairman of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Saul has been a general partner in the investment from Saul Partners LP since 1986. As chair of the Thrift Investment Board, he oversaw the Thrift Savings Plan, a retirement savings account for employees of the federal government and soldiers of the armed services. Career, business. Saul was born to a Jewish family in New York City. He graduated from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania in 1968. So he does come from kind of the same tri-state background I did, which is obviously a Jewish tri-state area landscape, although he went to a different business school than me. Business. Saul began his career with Brooks Fashion Stores, rising to become its president and growing the company into a large corporation listed on the New York Stock Exchange, so super grew it. Along with his father, he then purchased the bankrupt South Florida women's apparel company, Cachet Inc., and restored it to solvency. I think that's the store that's in malls. I remember that store. It was like a expensive, older women's store with clothing and stuff, but I mean, it was fancy. I remember it in the mall. The company was an upscale fashion store with 300 outlets around the world. It was publicly traded on the NASDAQ. He has served on the board of directors since 1986 and chairman from February 1993 to October 2000. In 1986, he founded an investment firm with his father, Saul Partners LP, as a partner. Cachet again filed for bankruptcy protection in 2015 when it ceased all operations. He's a member of the board of trustees of the Federation of Jewish Philanthropies, the United Jewish Appeal Federation, the Sarah Newman Nursing Home, the Wharton School of Business, the Manhattan Institute, Mount Sinai. Sweetie, stop. Come on, stop, please. Sarah Newman Nursing Home. Go over there. Come here. I'll rub you while I do the video. Manhattan Institute, Mount Sinai Hospital, New York City. So basically, he's on all these different boards. He's also a member of the Chairman's Council of the Metropolitan Museum of Art and a patron of the Museum of Modern Art, and is one of the top art collectors in New York, with extensive holdings of modern art and contemporary art, especially post-war American and Chinese bronzes. In May 2013, he was made a member of the Board of Trustees for the National Gallery of Art. So basically, he's a super rich guy. I don't know how rich he is. Let's do a quick Google search, which is probably completely inaccurate, but let's see what Andrew Saul is worth. What is Andrew Saul's net worth? Sweetie, stop. Doesn't have it. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Let's see what they have here. Yeah, it doesn't have an amount. All right, but we can assume, since he's got lots of fancy art, that he's a multi-millionaire. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. He's a business guy. And what happened that angered the Biden administration, because it was the first stimulus to come out through the Biden administration, as opposed to the first two, right? We all remember those, where those two were coming out through the Trump administration. When the Biden administration came in, he did a little bit of a trick, and that trick was to not pay out the benefits immediately, which angered a heck of a lot of people. And the reason why he did it was he said, hey, we're having to do significantly more work, and as a result of that, we basically deserve more pay, which is fair. He went to the IRS and said, IRS, pay us. as a result of that, what's going on now is essentially the Biden administration didn't like that he pulled a stall tactic. I don't think Biden cared about the financial aspect. I don't know. He could have. But I don't think President Biden liked the fact that there was a stall tactic, which resulted in benefits being paid significantly later than they were supposed to. Because remember, these presidents, everything is a timeline. Everything that Joseph Biden does, everything that Donald Trump did, it was on a timeline as to when's the best time for it to come out, when's the best time for this thing to happen. And they do all of these things because they're trying to look a certain way. You know, like Apple Computers doesn't show us its failures because it's trying to look a certain way. It's trying to always seem like it is a success, always seem like it is benefiting the people. It's part of a big show. You know, you want to know what's the greatest show on earth? It's not the movie they came out with, the greatest show on earth. It is who is going to be the president of the United States. That's literally the greatest television show that you could ever watch. So, with that said, kind of the bottom line here is, I'll read through the Social Security portion. On April 12, 2018, President Trump announced his intention to nominate Saul to be commissioner of the Social Security for the remainder of the 6-year term expiring January 19, 2019, and for an additional 6-year term expiring January 19, 2025. So there were a lot more years left on this clock for Andrew Saul. The nomination drew sharp criticism from the Social Security and the disability advocacy groups because of his involvement with the right-wing Manhattan Institute, which had repeatedly called for cuts to Social Security benefits. His lack of experience with Social Security and the accusations that he impersonated a police chief while trespassing on his bicycle were also brought into question. On January 3rd, 2019, his nomination was returned to the president under Rule looks like 31, paragraph 6 of the United States Senate. He was renominated on January 22nd, 2019 for the remainder of a 6-year term expiring January 19, 2025. On March 26, 2019, his nomination was reported out of a committee favorably by the Senate Committee on Finance. On June 4, 2019, the Senate confirmed his nomination by a vote of 77 to 16. Wow, 77 to 16. So a lot of people liked him. On June 17, 2017, Saul was officially sworn in as the commissioner of the Social Security at the agency's offices in Washington, D.C. The first FEVS report issued under Saul shows SSA dropped 2 ranks in the annual best places to work in the federal government list. The agency dropped from 12th out of 17 to 14th per the official government report. SSA employees listed among other reasons for the decline a lack of confidence in leadership. Okay, so attempted termination of the SSA telecommuting program. We'll do another video on that. So bottom line is this. It appears that basically the thing that this is all about, and there's a bunch of things that they were unhappy about, whether it was unions that he was supposed to integrate with. But you got to remember something. This is a business guy. This is a tri-state business guy, and not like the modern tri-state business guys where it's just all tech and then they all move to California for a lot of whatever they're going to be doing. But this is an old school. This is a Trump guy. This is a guy who would take businesses, build them, and then, ironically, very similar to Trump, would kill the business off and take money. Obviously, I don't know who the new commissioner is going to be. I'm going to be doing a video on that shortly to kind of walk through it, and you guys get to realize who they are with me. But should somebody like should a business person, an old school tri-state business person, be the head of the Social Security Administration? You run into issues, and that's because the Social Security Administration doesn't really, it's not a make money company, you know what I mean? It's not a for-profit. This is definitely like a, people pay in, it's almost like a non-profit corporation, where it's more of a, how do we pay for it to upkeep it, you know? In that regard, maybe you should have more stylized non-profit leadership. But, on the other hand, this is the first year that the Social Security Administration is losing money. And it was losing money before, well, it was going to start losing money even before this whole COVID thing happened. So you might need some sort of business-type person in there to keep people getting paid what they're currently getting paid. But then that means cuts to more disability benefits going forward. You know, not fewer people are going to be found disabled, you know. Interesting. This is probably one of the biggest things that will happen in 2021. But I don't think most people even realize what's the outcome from something. I certainly don't know what's going to happen. We've had a slew of claims that should have gone through for disability benefits that weren't, and we know that appeals counsel has pressuring capabilities over administrative law judges, even though it's supposed to be, and I have to say supposedly or potentially, or I have to throw those words in. I can't say definitively, because of the sources that I collect information from as to what's going on. But I know, although it is my opinion, that basically there's pressure in the Social Security Administration on supposed to be these independent people. And my way of saying that is that, oh, it's slight pressure. It's they call them just to check on how they're doing, and this is more than they used to, whatever. But the point is, I think most people have realized. I don't think anybody would argue against the idea that it's getting harder to be found disabled. 20 years ago, let's use an extreme, 40 years ago, right? 40 years ago, it was really easy to be found disabled. 20 years ago, still very easy, but not as easy. You know what I mean? It just kept slowly becoming more and more difficult. Why do you think that is? Anyways, guys, we're going to be now doing a video specifically on the person who is going to become the acting Social Security Commissioner, and then kind of go forward from there. Obviously, Commissioner Saul was a superhuman. He was quite literally a superhuman. He started a bunch of businesses, made tons of money, ran them into the ground, sold them, bankrupt them, whatever. He's a superhuman. But I just want to make one final point here. These people that are in these positions are almost always multi-millionaires, because you have to wonder, how did they get connected this heavily to these other positions? And it's usually through, in my opinion, making donations. That's how they get to the top of these clubs. They can make donations. One of the reasons you'll never see me at the top of a lot of these, committees and clubs and groups and unions or whatever, is that I don't have tons and tons of unlimited funds. I mean, I'm really getting hurt from this whole COVID thing, and because of that, I don't have money to donate to all these groups that are think tanks and special interest groups and stuff like that. So you'll never see me at the top of any of those, because I just don't have the money. I don't have $1 million to give away. I don't have $500,000 to give away. I don't have any of that stuff. My student loans are more than your benefits probably that you get per month for retirement or disability benefits. They're probably more. There's a percentage of you, an extremely high percentage of you, that are receiving less money per month for your benefits than the cost of my student loans. And the cost of my student loans are I pay them at a low rate, a very low rate. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward what happens with these different appointments. But obviously Biden is putting in his team before he wants to put through his legislation. All right, my name is Attorney Walter, if not the third. I'm with Disability Resolution PA. I'll catch you a little bit later, and we'll go from there. Please, if you like this channel, please like, subscribe, and leave 5-star reviews. The leaving of the 5-star reviews really helps me be competitive against these big box firms. I'll catch you a little bit later, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.